Media Watch, that means, of course, James Creedon, who's raring to go, ready to go, no less. And today, we're talking about Le Huffington, which is the French version of the Huffington Post. Is it called Le Huffington?
Well, it is now Le Huffington, I suppose.
It's not Luffington. No.
We could talk about the pronunciation for a long time, but the Le, I suppose, is what distinguishes it now as a French website. Of course, this is the big sensation, what would you say, a revelation in the US media for the last 5-10 years, the Huffington Post. And in 2010, it passed out the New York Times for a number of once-off visits. I think some 13 million hits, which is more than what the New York Times website gets. So it's a massive success story and a very successful business model as well, because they don't actually pay a lot of their contributors. They get bloggers or various other people to contribute to the website, which means nice little profit margin for the Huffington Post, for Arianna Huffington, who is the founder. And
she is a very rich lady, it's worth saying.
That's right. She sold it actually to AOL last year for over $300 million. So certainly that's
she's wise.
A bit of lining for her nest.
AOL mightn't be, but let's carry on.
Right. So of course the other big detail here is that the woman of the moment is not Arianna Huffington. Actually, it's Anne Sinclair.
Anne Sinclair, wife of Dominic Strauss-Kahn.
That's right, better known as. And so she wrote her introductory editorial piece on the Huffington Post website today, Qui nous sommes, who we are. And of course, it could also have read Who I Am, because this is her return to the media, I suppose, arena.
Because she used to be
a big absence.
Big media star here, didn't she, in France?
That's right. I mean, she presented the big talk show for many, many years, interviewed all the bigwigs, actually met Dominic Strauss-Kahn as a result of interviewing him on that show.
Met across a crowded studio, as it were.
Yes, exactly. So there you go. And she then, what's interesting, I suppose, is if Dominic Strauss-Kahn hadn't had the big scandal that he's undergone, she probably would not have returned to the media world, because France has quite a history of political and media couples, and generally speaking, the female journalist usually kind of retires from the public life, if so to speak, to allow to prevent any conflicts of interest. Indeed. So she's back in the game because he's out of the game. That's essentially the way it's worked. Now, some people have been asking as well, how is the Huffington Post going to deal with the Dominic Strauss-Kahn saga, because it ain't over yet. And if I could find the right page, here you have Arianna Huffington, who spoke to the business paper Les Echos, and she said, look, Anne Sinclair is a wonderful editorial director, and for this particular story, this one story that she won't be able to cover, we have assigned an editor in the newsroom who will deal with that particular stuff, so she won't have any authority.
So Arianna Huffington's already foreseen there could be this conflict of interest and decided to appoint somebody to sort of take over from Anne Sinclair when that happens.
That's exactly it.
To prevent that from happening.
That's right. Okay. And now a lot of people have been giving out as well and complaining about the fact that it's a business model where bloggers aren't paid, and there's been a debate on another website here, Newsring in France, about whether bloggers should be paid. But of course, the irony here is that Newsring is also a new website which has a lot of contributors from the public who aren't paid either. It's just the way the media is going.
Things here, if people aren't getting paid, doesn't that mean to say that journalism becomes a rich person's hobby, and anybody who's got something to say in terms of the people who are sort of underprivileged or underfed or undereducated, they can't get into this because they need to be paid to live. Whereas if you're rich, you can just say
you're not the only one.
Plug your own pet schemes, that kind of stuff.
This particular journalist here by the name of Christophe Ginesti, he was asked to write for the Huffington Post website. When he asked about money, they sort of didn't really want to talk about that, and he said, I'm not going to write for them. I mean, this is a job that should be remunerated, and he thinks that it's immoral to found a website or to start up a website where the vast majority of the contributors aren't paid. So it's a debate that can be had. Some would say it's the current model of things, and that bloggers, there was one actual contributor to this debate on Newsring who said it's the bloggers should be paying Arianna Huffington for the exposure that they get on her website.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? It's that kind of like vanity publishing thing, which could introduce itself.
Yes, indeed.
Which is the end of journalism.
Right, that's it. It's certainly the whole world of journalism is trying to catch up with these changes. It's been pretty revolutionary.
The world catches up
for good or for bad.
James is ahead of them with Media Watch. James Creedon, thank you very much indeed.
Mark.